The Arizona desert stretched endlessly under the brutal afternoon sun, a vast ocean of red earth and jagged rock formations glowing like embers. Heat shimmered across the landscape, warping the air so everything looked like a mirage, even life itself. And somewhere between the dunes and the thorny mesquite bushes lay John Mercer, a cowboy who had seen too many bad days, and this one felt like the last. His throat burned, his lips cracked, and even the act of blinking sent knives of pain across his sun-dried eyes. His horse had bolted after a rattlesnake spooked it. His canteen, half full that morning, had slipped from his hand hours earlier when he fell. And now his strength was slipping away as quickly as the desert light. He tried to push himself up one more time, he failed. The world tilted sideways, and the desert spun around him in waves of heat and dust. Hell, he muttered, or thought he did. It was hard to tell when his own voice sounded like someone else's. Then he heard it, hoofbeats. At first he assumed it was his imagination again. He had imagined water twice already. Once even imagined a stagecoach. But the sound grew clearer, steady, controlled, and real. He forced his heavy eyelids open. Through the wavering heat came the silhouette of a rider on a tall Appaloosa horse. The rider sat straight, confident, calm, moving with the rhythm of someone who belonged to the land more than the land belonged to them. As the horse approached, John realized the rider was a woman. She wore traditional Apache buckskin, decorated with beadwork that shimmered faintly in the sun. Her black hair was braided and tied with a strip of red cloth that fluttered in the hot wind. She stopped her horse beside him and dismounted with a smooth, practiced motion. For a moment she just studied him, her dark eyes sharp, alert, assessing whether he was a threat, a burden, or simply a dying man. John tried to speak, but all that came out was air. The woman knelt beside him, her shadow falling over his face like a blessing. She uncorked a small leather water pouch and pressed it to his lips. "Drink slowly," she said. Her voice was calm but carried an edge of authority, the kind people obey without question. John took a weak sip. Cool water slid down his throat like mercy. "Who are you?" he managed. The woman didn't answer immediately. She wiped the dust from his forehead with the back of her hand, then stood and offered him her arm. "Get on my horse, handsome cowboy," she said, with just enough humor to tell him she'd already decided he wasn't dying today. John blinked up at her, confused. "Why are you helping me?" She looked out across the red desert, where the sun was beginning its slow descent, painting the world in golden blood. "Because no one dies alone in my land," she said softly. "My name is Tala. And today, cowboy, you ride with me." John's hands trembled as he hoisted himself onto Tala's Appaloosa. The horse, surprisingly calm, adjusted its gait to accommodate the two of them, its hooves kicking up small clouds of red dust that floated lazily in the desert wind. For the first time in hours, John felt a flicker of hope, or at least a fragile illusion of safety. "Hold on tight," Tala instructed, her voice steady, like a steadying force in the chaos of the desert. John gripped the horse's mane and nodded, feeling the muscles beneath him move with effortless power. The canyon walls rose like ancient sentinels, red and golden, illuminated by the late afternoon sun. Shadows stretched across the path, revealing jagged rocks and hidden gullies that could easily spell disaster for an inexperienced rider. Tala navigated each twist and turn with grace, like she had been born in the desert and carried its secrets in her bones. "You've done this before, haven't you?" John managed to ask, his voice hoarse. Tala didn't look back. "Every day of my life," she said. "The land teaches you if you listen. You don't fight it, you move with it." John glanced at her profile, the sun catching the glint in her dark eyes, the wind tugging at her braids, and felt a pang of admiration. He had spent his life wary of Apache tribes, stories and prejudice filling his head. Yet here was Tala, saving his life without question, guiding him through the desert with a quiet authority he couldn't ignore. Why are you helping me?" he asked again. His voice was lower this time, almost a whisper. Tala's horse rounded a sharp bend, revealing a natural bridge of stone, the horizon glowing beyond it. "Because courage isn't measured by fighting alone, cowboy," she said. "Sometimes it's measured by knowing when to accept help." John swallowed, trying to keep pace with the rising tension in his chest. "You could walk away. Leave me here." She shook her head, eyes forward. "Then you die." "I don't leave anyone to die." The canyon seemed endless, but with Tala leading the way, John felt the miles shrink beneath them. The desert air carried a mix of sand, sage, and the faint metallic tang of distant iron deposits. Every now and then, a hawk would circle overhead, silent, watchful, as if judging their progress. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the rhythmic pounding of hooves and Tala's occasional directions. John's strength slowly returned, the water she had given him rekindling the life in his body. For the first time since his horse ran off, he felt like he belonged, not entirely, but enough to breathe without the constant fear of collapse. Finally, as the sun began its descent into the horizon, the canyon opened to a wider plateau. Shadows stretched long, and the air cooled just enough to make the ride bearable. Tala slowed her horse to a careful trot, then finally came to a stop near a cluster of rocks. "You'll need to rest soon," she said, dismounting gracefully. Tomorrow, the desert is still wide, and our journey isn't over. John nodded, still catching his breath, but a faint smile tugged at his lips. I don't know how I'd survive this without you. Tala offered him a rare, soft smile. Then consider yourself lucky. The desert teaches, but it also rewards those who respect it. John realized that this was more than survival, it was a lesson, a bond forming in the unforgiving heat of Arizona. And for the first time in a long while, he felt alive. The morning sun cut through the canyon like a knife, painting the jagged rocks in sharp golden red. Tala and John rode carefully along a narrow ridge, the kind of path where one misstep could send a man plummeting into the ravine below. The desert was quiet, but John's instincts told him that danger often arrived in silence. Then Tala tensed. She raised a hand, signaling him to stop. Off in the distance, a cloud of dust swirled near a cluster of boulders. 3 figures on horseback emerged, moving with deliberate speed. John squinted, trying to make out details, and his heart sank. They're after me, he muttered, his voice tight with fear. Bounty hunters. I've seen them before. They won't hesitate. Tala didn't flinch. Her eyes narrowed, assessing the riders' positions, estimating their speed, calculating the risks. She shifted slightly in the saddle, and the Appaloosa responded immediately, its muscles coiled like springs. Then hold tight, cowboy, she said. John gripped the horse's mane as Tala spurred it forward, the ridge beneath them a blur of stone and dust. The bounty hunters spurred their horses as well, closing the distance, but Tala's knowledge of the canyon gave her an advantage. She led John along a twisting path where sheer cliffs shielded them from direct gunfire. Bullets kicked up red dust around their hooves, carving jagged lines through the air. Why are they after you? Tala asked, her voice calm despite the chaos. John swallowed, trying to steady his breathing. I saw something I wasn't supposed to. They want me quiet, permanently. Tala didn't answer with words. Instead, she guided them toward a narrow passage between 2 towering rocks. The bounty hunters followed blindly, unaware of the traps the canyon naturally provided. Tala's eyes gleamed with determination, no one was going to take John here. One of the hunters fired again. The bullet ricocheted off the rock wall, narrowly missing Tala's horse. She leaned forward, directing John to duck, and the Appaloosa surged ahead with breathtaking agility. Rocks fell from the cliffs, triggered by their rapid movement, blocking the path behind them. John's chest heaved, adrenaline coursing through him. How can you be so fearless? He asked. Tala didn't respond directly. Instead, she rode with the steady precision of someone who had survived countless dangers, who had faced death before and decided it wasn't an option. Every turn, every jump, every narrow ledge was a testament to her skill and courage. Finally, they emerged into a small plateau, hidden by natural stone walls. Tala guided the horse to a slow stop. The bounty hunters were forced to halt at the edge, frustrated, unable to reach them without risking a fatal fall. John's hands shook as he dismounted. You saved my life, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Tala's dark eyes softened slightly. I only save men who know the value of life, she said. But, she added, her gaze hardening, don't think this is over. Outlaws don't give up so easily. We'll have to be ready for what comes next. John nodded, understanding for the first time that survival in the desert wasn't just about riding fast or hiding. It was about trust, skill, and the courage to face impossible odds. And with Tala, he had all 3. The canyon was quiet again, but now, John knew the desert was alive, not just with danger, but with the fierce, unyielding spirit of the woman who had refused to let him die alone. By late afternoon, Tala led John to the ruins of an old Civil War fort perched on a rocky plateau. The walls were cracked and crumbling, but the structure offered natural cover and a vantage point over the surrounding desert. Here, at last, Tala planned to make their stand. Stay close, she instructed, dismounting and helping John to the ground. The Appaloosa moved to graze nearby, its ears twitching at every sound. John's legs were unsteady, but he managed to stand, gripping Tala's hand briefly for balance. They'll be here soon, Tala said, scanning the horizon. In the distance, dust plumes betrayed the approach of the relentless bounty hunters. John's heart raced. He had survived being chased through the canyon, but now it was time to fight, or die. Are you sure about this? He asked, voice trembling. Tala's dark eyes met his. I've faced worse. You're not dying today, cowboy. Not while I draw breath. She reached for the bow strapped to her back, arrows fletched and ready. Her movements were precise, confident, every motion a blend of skill and survival instinct. The bounty hunters arrived just as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the fort. They spurred their horses forward, confident in numbers, expecting an easy kill. But Tala had planned for this. Now, she whispered, and the first arrow flew. It struck with deadly accuracy, forcing one of the hunters to reel back in surprise. John ducked instinctively behind a stone wall as the second arrow followed, and then a third. Tala moved like a shadow, using the ruined walls for cover, her aim unerring. John's fear turned to a mix of awe and determination. What do I do? He shouted. Stay low, watch my back, Tala replied. When the time comes, you fight too. The battle raged. Dust and debris filled the air as bullets ricocheted off stone. John took careful aim with a rifle Tala had handed him, each shot slowing the hunters' advance. The desert echoed with the sounds of conflict, and yet Tala remained calm, a force of nature amid chaos. One by one, the bounty hunters fell or fled, their plans undone by Tala's strategy and skill. Finally, silence returned. The wind stirred the dust, and the fort, though battered, stood as a testament to their survival. John lowered his rifle, breathing heavily. He turned to Tala, admiration and gratitude flooding his features. "You saved my life," he said, voice raw. Tala approached, her expression softening. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "I only save those who are willing to fight to live," she said. "But remember, cowboy, courage isn't just in surviving battles. It's in living after them." John nodded, feeling the weight of her words. For the first time in a long while, he realized he wasn't just surviving, he was alive. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the desert in fiery gold and crimson, John and Tala stood side by side on the old fort. The canyon stretched endlessly before them, quiet and alive, a land of danger and beauty. And in that silence, John understood the truth Tala had shown him. In the harshness of the desert, survival was never just about fighting alone. It was about trust, courage, and the rare strength of someone willing to refuse letting you die alone. The wind whispered across the plateau, carrying their triumph, their bond, and the promise that, together, they could face whatever the Wild West still had in store.